thing smells really funny. I don't like it. It doesn't smell like normal. It smells like wet animal. Not bad. Mm. It's not like bad wet animal. It's like brand new puppy just took a bath wet animal.
Oh, okay. So it's not like great, but it's not awful.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
On a scale of 1 to Justin, is not near close to Justin.
Fucking no, my God, he smells real bad.
Yeah,
I haven't smelt him in a while, but he smelled real bad.
I need to give him another bath. I pet him today, and I was like, "Ooh, my hand smells now."
Icky.
This is Twin Sig Radio, episode 78 for the week of August 12th, 2019. I'm one of your hosts, Trey Higgins, and I'm joined by Chris Rodriguez.
Fuck you, Justin T. Lopez.
Who is on his way, maybe?
Who is not here, so I can say whatever the fuck I want to him.
Wouldn't that have been really...
You smell like icky.
Got him. Wouldn't that have been funny if he had just walked in, like right after you said that? If we sound a little bit different, it shouldn't be a big deal because I don't really notice it.
No, there'll be the AC. You could hear the AC probably.
Yeah.
Weirdly, no, I thought there'd be more echo.
Yeah, I thought there would be too.
There's too much shit in here, man.
Way
too much shit in here.
We sound different. We're recording at a different, undisclosed location today in the Mediterranean Sea.
We've decided to. Why did we go to the other side of the world to do this? Oh, we went into the world to get to the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, fair enough.
This is why...
he could have been like, we're at like Canyon Lake.
This is why you don't let me plan things, because I always do things the suboptimal way.
Hell, we could even go north to one of the Great Lakes. It's fine. But we had to go to fucking the Middle East.
So I think the beginning of the show is going to be talking about what Chris has been playing, unless he has anything else he wants to talk about. But I did want to use the top of the show because we've been moving, we've just been busy, which is why we haven't recorded in 3 weeks.
Sure.
And then I didn't bring a laptop or remind someone to bring a laptop last week, so that was my bad.
We're busy. We didn't record, but we totally made time to play D&D. Priorities, everybody.
Yeah, D&D is not a job.
Neither is this.
But I did want to mention that I finished The Boys on Amazon Prime yesterday.
How was that?
It is excellent.
Sweet.
It is very, very good. I know, like, this is not an unpopular opinion. It seems like everyone loves The Boys.
I thought it was an unpopular opinion. I thought people hated it because it was, like, super, like, sexist and shit like that.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I get my opinion about TV from Reddit. So,
okay.
Or I get my opinion of the zeitgeist of TV from Reddit.
Sure.
Everyone seems to love it, but it lived up to the hype for me. Although I will say that, like, one of the bad parts about the internet is when people talk about something too much, they set your expectations for you a little bit. And it didn't really meet my expectations, but it exceeded them a little bit. But it's a lot different than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So
I want to point out the fact that Everett's got 3 different tabulated devices open, and he's like using all 3 at the same time.
Can I guess what you're doing? I think you're trying to share the Wi-Fi password from your iPad to your phone.
Because I no longer have the phone that has the password.
No, but does your iPad have the password?
No.
Oh, never mind. Then you probably don't have it.
It's 555-111-666-999.
We're on the podcast.
In the Mediterranean Sea, they're never going to be in this location.
They're not going to know where we are.
We're not even going to send it out.
That's one of those things. It's like the password is 1 2 3 4. Like who the hell sets their password as 1 2 3 4?
Speaking of passwords,
change my luggage.
Speaking of passwords, Chris and I moved to a new place, a very nice new place. But we got new internet, and when we got the new internet, I tried like just using the password you use for basically everything to log in, and I couldn't figure it out. So I had to text Chris's girlfriend Whitney and be like, "Hey, what's the password?" And she sent it to me. I'll tell you what, it took me like a full week to understand what the fuck that password was. Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
I like to make them semi-confusing for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it hard for people to. Nobody's going to figure that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd have to know me fairly well to be able to figure it out.
Like once I figured it out, I was like, "That's Chris."
Sure, 100%. Yeah. And our Wi-Fi. The actual Wi-Fi is Vault 1410 because that's our new address.
Yeah, I thought that was neat.
Yep. I like Fallout like a lot.
So unless you have another game you want to talk about,
I don't think I've played anything this week other than Destiny 2.
cool. Then let's talk about Destiny a little bit. I didn't really do.
Forsaken, whatever the hell you want to call it.
I think Destiny 2. It's fine.
That's fine.
More people know that than Forsaken.
Sure.
I didn't really do a news write up about this because it was a lot of information. But you've been playing Destiny. How are you feeling?
So we were talking about it on the way over to New Braunfels from the new undisclosed location. That is our house.
It was a really long trip.
Yeah.
We had a lot of time to talk about this.
We were talking about it a little bit in the car, and I, for the most part, the last time we talked about Destiny on this podcast, you even said like it's just a good time to just kind of like jump in because there's so much to do. Because there really is. There's man, I don't feel like playing Crucible. Cool, I can go do this, try for the Vanguard Pinnacle weapons, or I could right now, like as of right now, I'm doing the Gambit Pinnacle weapons because I really like them both, the Breakneck and Hush. I really, really like both those weapons. And I found that Gambit Prime is insanely enjoyable. Even if you're on a team that you're losing and you're just like, man, nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Since you're working toward a pinnacle weapon, it's not like that loss is a waste, right?
Yeah.
I didn't just waste 20 minutes of my life because for Breakneck, you need like 500 auto rifle kills, 100 auto rifle multi kills, 40 matches completed, and then pick up orbs or kill orange bar enemies or something like that. And so I'm having a lot of fun because even if I'm on a losing team, it's not like I'm not making progress towards something. So kudos to Bungie for having those pinnacle weapons where that happens, where unkudos is like the thorn quests.
Yeah.
If you die, you lose progress in your quest. I fucking hate that. I just hate shit like that.
Which every like exotic quest
Pretty
has
much,
some element of that.
pretty much, which is just the worst thing in the world, especially for people who aren't good at PvP, like this guy right over here. And so I'm having a lot of fun with Destiny. It's I still fucking hate the leveling system. I think it's the stupidest leveling system in the world. I hate that my entire power powered infrastructure is all based around RNG. It is because it all is. I can't control how much power I have, and that bothers the living fucking shit out of me. Still to this day, I'm getting mad about it.
Well, and they sort of circumvented it with adding a whole shit ton of things you can do to get prime engrams.
Sure.
But the issue still remains that like when you're at the end of the week and you have a gear slot that's way higher than everything else, and you have one that's really low, your chances of getting the thing that you need to sort of level you out is still not been modified at all.
And so that's why, like, as of right now, I'm just going for some pinnacle weapons that I think I'm going to really enjoy. I'm looking forward to Shadowkeep because I know they're adding a whole bunch, and I'm sure there's new weapons and new exotics and shit like that. But I was telling Trey, what really, I guess, kind of like reignited the drive to want to play this is I got Bad Juju, which I've said it. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but that was like my weapon in D1. Going back to the same story, Trey and I always say, he was running Night Stalker in the raids when we were clearing trash. In between when you're trying to DPS the War Priest, you have thralls coming at you like crazy. And our raid team always had issues. We always were in the middle, and our other raid team was up on the two platforms. And we never had an issue because Trey would shadow shot, and I would be using Bad Juju to get my super back, pop the Emperor Palpatine thing, clear the room, and people,
and I would have my super back,
and you'd have your super back, and then I'd use Bad Juju some more, and I would get my. I think Bad Juju is one of the best fucking weapons that's ever been in Destiny, and this one's it's the same. It like feels the same, looks the same. And I love it. And anyway, that reignited my. I want to do this now. I want to go get Breakneck because I really like the idea of Breakneck. I really like the idea of Hush, and I would like to take those into Shadowkeep and hopefully keep those going into Shadowkeep because I'm the type of guy that I like to pick a weapon and I stick with that weapon no matter what.
We're joined by Justin T. Lopez, by the way.
I agree. I've been here this whole time.
No,
And everything,
they know.
everything
They know you
said,
haven't been here. Why do you think that I keep secrets from the audience, except for our undisclosed location in the Mediterranean Sea?
What?
Wait, what?
That's where we're recording today.
Oh,
You're
yes.
not cool enough to wear sunglasses inside.
I wear my sunglasses at night.
It's not night.
nighttime.
At 6 o'clock.
That means
It's
we have
nighttime in the
we have
Mediterranean Sea.
We have 2 hours. Wait, did you hear the Mediterranean Sea
Yeah, I
conversation?
just told him.
I just heard the lip.
Oh, okay.
It's part of improv.
I
It's just yes
totally
and.
missed it. I thought literally because you literally just walked in probably 2 minutes after the Mediterranean thing, and if you would have walked in and been like, "Oh yeah, it's nighttime in the Mediterranean Sea," it's like, what the fuck?
Podcast
Are you
over.
you two like fucking tethered at the brain or something?
Yeah.
What's happening?
It's like a
here?
hive mind sort
Yeah.
of thing, you know.
Anyway, yeah. So and they're releasing a shit ton of stuff. The stream for Destiny 2 was really exciting, and I was telling Trey we're finally getting builds in Destiny 2. Like they showed off a strictly arc buddy build for a warlock, where she built her entire warlock around consuming her grenade, getting an arc buddy, and then using a fusion rifle to get her grenade back as fast as possible. So her downtime for having arc buddies was non-existent. And
Yeah.
I love that is a thing that's happening. They're all, Titan were the same way. That Titan that is, I just want to play support. So it's not a Titan running around punching shit and doing everything. He was a sniper who would punch, give people an overshield, go and do the thing. And he
Using
had
Lumina.
using Lumina and literally being a support character, which is unheard of in Destiny.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how all that's going to work, especially like in the raid. Because, now the Titan, by the way, the Titan bubble gives you weapons of light again now, starting in Shadowkeep. So it's really nice to see how raid encounters are going to work again, because having support characters in raid encounters is pretty much non-existent anymore, right? Now the only support character you have is a Well of Radiance Warlock, and he just pops it, but then everybody just DPSs.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm really looking forward to having roles again in Destiny like we had in Destiny 1. Like we wouldn't have been able to beat the War Priest if TJ didn't give us weapons of light. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to shit like that. I'm looking forward to Destiny, which is a dumb thing to say because I know I'm going to get mad. So
Yeah.
See,
Well,
all we needed to do to fix Destiny was just not record a podcast for like
For
a month
3
and a half.
yeah.
get Chris bored of shit. That way,
Yeah.
the only thing he's got left to play is Destiny.
See, but Destiny, like, to your point, it does seem like it's in a good place, and it seems like people
Sure.
who are into Destiny or are
Sure.
happy to jump back into
Sure,
it.
and
now.
that's the thing is like I think the end game for Destiny is always get to 750 light and do the raid and get those things, but there's so much to do in Destiny right now that's not even a priority
Yeah.
for people. So me not even being at 750, I don't care that number's not going up. It is slowly because I've gotten 3 edge transits out of like 9 engrams so far, but I don't care that number's not going up, which is a really good feeling, to be completely honest with you.
There's
It's the benefit of not being a day one sort of thing. on
Yeah,
all of
sure,
these
100%.
things,
Yeah.
there's this meme going around from the
Moon's
boys. From the boys, where the superheroes are all having a meeting, and it's like Superman's going around lecturing everyone. So he points
Wait,
to
Superman's in this movie?
basically
Spoilers.
Oh, okay.
Superman points to one character and he's like, "You have been sloppy," and it says, it says Division 2. You have been erratic, and it says Warframe, and then it points to the Batman character. It's like you've been great, and it's Destiny 2.
Sure, yeah. You haven't been here, Anthem.
I was
Like,
waiting for
yeah.
it. I wanted Anthem to be in there somewhere, and then I realized,
I'm pretty sure there is an
shouldn't
Anthem
be.
one there. There's like an invisible superhero. that
Yeah,
he
it's like,
points
you're
at.
not here, or
Yeah.
like, you suck just so hard.
So one of the Destiny things, I haven't read this blog post yet, but I did see the news
skimming
story about
through
it.
it.
Yeah, I saw an article on IGN about it, and it was Luke Smith
Yep.
talking about microtransactions.
The Luke Smith to you.
Yeah, the Luke Smith, sorry. And he said in the blog post, as some folks have smartly pointed out, microtransactions are a big part of our business being a live game. I'm not going to say microtransaction funds the studio or pays for projects like Shadowkeep. It doesn't wholly fund either of those things, but it does help fund ongoing development for Destiny 2 and allows us to fund creative efforts we otherwise couldn't afford. And an example he pointed out was a 0-hour mission which became a reality due to funds from Whisper of the Worms ornaments. It took them like 4 weeks to do the quest for Whisper of the Worms, whereas it took them like 7 months to develop Outbreak Prime, and they could afford to do it because of Whisper.
Yeah, I mean, it's anybody who listens to this podcast is not. I am a fan of microtransactions as long as they're done in the correct way. Like, let me buy whatever the hell I want to buy, not like keep it to RNG, right? The Apex Legends route or the Overwatch route. That's not good. That's not good microtransactions.
Well,
but if I want to spend $5 and get the ornament for Bad Juju, let me do it, and they've done that.
There's a reason why in like just outside of video games, just in society, gambling in most places is illegal.
Sure.
But you can go to a store and buy whatever you want.
Sure, 100%.
And that's how businesses make money.
Yep, 100%. I've already spent $5 in Destiny, and I have this first time I've spent money other than the game itself, and because I wanted the Bad Juju ornament, and so I bought it because I could. I wasn't tied to an engram. It wasn't tied to a random roll. It was there for $5, and I was like, I love the way that looks. I'm just gonna buy it.
In the words of Ariana Grande, I see it, I want it, I got it.
Sometimes I get confused about who the gay person is here.
Who the hell is that?
Some Disney star or something.
It's a Disney star. Okay.
All right, Justin, do you have any games you want to talk about, or do you want to talk about the news?
Not really. I mean, I've been playing Overwatch. They introduced the new 2-2-2 competitive lock.
I like
and
it.
that's made competitive Overwatch so much more fun.
I like the dude. I like the new guy.
Sigma?
He's cool looking.
He's badass.
Yeah, he's cool looking.
He is so cool. You kind of like him because he almost has like a Magneto vibe to him.
Yeah,
so I
sure.
can see that.
I think he's cool looking. Other than the barefootedness, it's weird, but he's cool looking.
Yeah, I already bought him a skin that he has shoes on.
Oh, nice.
So immediately.
Yeah,
haven't
he's
even
cool
played him
looking
yet. Yep, give him shoes.
By the way, Borderlands is less than a month away. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. Countdown.
Yeah, countdown, please.
Check the clock. And less than a month. There you go.
I got asked by some friends at work to run another game of D&D, which I'll be running either Dragon Heist or Curse of Strahd because it's stuff I already have prepped.
Would that be weird for you to run, like, say, Dragon Heist, for example?
I'm actually really excited to run Dragon Heist again because, like,
It'll be so different.
But it's not going to be as cool because the betrayal's not going to happen at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that it'll compare to my experience of running it for the first time, but I'd like to see,
never does.
At this point, total, I've run like over 40 sessions. Including like one shots and Curse of Strahd and all that, and so I'm just really excited to see like what an almost year DMing version of Dragon Heist looks like, as opposed to me just sort of like flying by the seat of my pants every week.
There's a bunch of sexual references in there if anybody caught them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
lots.
Break them down, turn them into a GIF.
That's also what she said.
You know, those audio GIFs.
So news. Phil Spencer talked about the importance of playability and high frame rates with the Xbox Scarlet, saying, quote, ensuring that the games load incredibly fast, ensuring that the game is running at the highest frame rate possible. That is a sentence that he said. We're also the Windows company, so we see the work that goes on for PC and the work that developers are doing. People love 50 or 60 frames per second, so getting games to run at 4K 60 frames per second, I think, will be a real design goal for us, end quote. Spencer continued on explaining that a major focus for the current generation consoles were 4K visuals, and bringing both movies and streaming to that level, along with the Xbox One X having the ability for games to run at 4K rates, was of huge importance. But playability is a larger focus for them for the Xbox Scarlet.
This reminds me of a conversation I had at work yesterday. We were talking about consoles, and someone was talking about the next gen console because a certain employee doesn't have any console. So someone was talking about like, I heard this next generation that's coming out. They say it's going to be the best ever, and it's going to be the fastest and look the best. It's like, well, yeah, that's
literally
the whole
the
point. So that's kind of what this quote reminded me of. Like, yeah. I would hope the goal is to make the games run at 60 frames per second at 4K.
Yeah. I mean, it
whether it's achievable. Also, I feel like most people's TVs still don't play 4K anyways, so.
I mean, most people's TVs don't, and then you also have, like, I would say, I don't know for sure, I have no stats on this, but I would say the majority of the people that watch movies and television on their TV...
It's 1080.
1080, but
Yeah.
they're also using a streaming service, and a lot of streaming services don't even offer
Sure.
4K as an option yet.
This is what's dumb. Blackmagic just came out with their 6K camera, It's like, why?
See, I love
Why?
I love any time around Super Bowl season.
Have you seen that?
Super Bowl season, you'll see like 4K TVs on sale at Walmart and everything else. Super Bowl isn't streamed in 4K,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's not a lot of things that are. There's nothing. I mean, maybe like Amazon Prime and Netflix does 4K, but it's not like.
And even then, I think you have to pay extra for
Yeah, like,
those.
I just don't. I don't understand it.
I
The only thing I took out of that is Phil Spencer doesn't like prepositions.
I also
Run-on sentences.
Yeah,
Just,
but yeah, just use commas. If I need to break it up, just use a comma.
don't get me wrong. I think that visuals are important, but I think the way that video game leans on visual fidelity is sort of a disservice to the medium. Like as a movie studio, right? Like obviously, all you have is visual and sound fidelity. So you have to rely on that solely to make a good product. But with video games, I feel like they're lacking in other departments in exchange for making sure that games run at a resolution that most people aren't playing at just yet, and at a frame rate that a lot of people can't really tell the huge difference from. Like I really think that games have lagged behind in AI. I really think that like sound design hasn't been a huge matter of importance for people. So I hope that they're not just looking at 4K as the future of Xbox, but who knows?
I mean, I feel like AI probably falls more into like developer side of things, not necessarily like Xbox or like Scarlet.
No, but it has everything to do with you're not going to run 4K 60 frames a second with like the best AI in the world and the best, because that's the thing is like when you're playing a game, I think Horizon Zero Dawn is probably the best example of a gaming company that had kind of rewrote the book to keep at a specific frame rate and still have that game look amazing. And they only rendered the game world that the camera saw.
It's a cone, basically.
Yeah, and so I don't think any other game has done that because like Fallout, I mean, it's an old game, but like Fallout 4, I can run at 60 frames a second until I get into the city, and it starts rendering everything around me when it doesn't need to, and that fucks with my frames. I get really good graphics, but it fucks with the frames, and I think all video game development goes into that, like because the game has to render like everything around it, but then it's also got to process its AI. It's got to process like what's happening on screen, and that all dips into that resolution. And I agree with Trey. I would rather keep 1080 30 frames a second solid for the next 20 years and just have games where it's like, man, I can barely tell if this is I'm playing against a human or an AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's the thing too. Like, as long as it remains consistent, you really can't tell. It's whenever you get those fluctuations and drop frame rates where it's like it's so jarring.
Yeah, like I'll take like you said, AI. Division 2 has fucking amazing AI. There's sometimes it's like fuck
flanking around you.
Yeah,
and everything,
I thought I was paying attention, but apparently I was not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love games like that where in like Destiny where it's like, oh, they're all just standing in a line, just shoot them all right in the it's easy.
And if your processing power is focused on having the best graphics in the world, that's power that's not being put towards making smart enemies.
Yep.
But next up, every game made by Quantic Dream going forward will be multi-platform, says the studio's founder and head, David Cage. Despite not being a Sony first-party studio, Quantic Dreams is known for producing PlayStation exclusives. Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and most recently Detroit Become Human were all initially launched as PlayStation exclusives and are now only coming to PC this year. However, David Cage told DualShockers that his team now wants to, quote, work on different platforms and reach players all around the world, end quote. I like what Quantic Dream does, and I like that they're able to put their stuff out for more people to enjoy. Like I think that there are even a lot of PlayStation people that haven't played those 3 games, although you're not missing anything with Beyond Two Souls. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do on other platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a smart business decision to have your game available on the most platforms as possible, especially whenever you're not contractually obligated to be on one platform. But 2, like anything that gets more single player games on Xbox, like I'm a fan of it.
Well, and you also
especially like high quality games like Quantic Dream.
Sure.
You have to imagine too that just with the sort of niche that Quantic Dreams exists in, they were probably being funded by Sony because they weren't
100%.
confident that their games were going to sell.
Yeah.
But we also know that at any time a Quantic Dream game comes out, that it doesn't sell as much as I think anyone's hoping for, which is probably part of the reason why Sony's not backing them in the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Detroit Become Humans was already on the PS Plus thing already.
Yeah, and it was before it was like a year old or maybe a year and a month old. Crazy. Actually, no. Kyle Booga Giersdorf, the 16-year-old Fortnite World Cup champion, was swatted while streaming on Twitch, as reported by Business Insider. A clip from the stream shows Giersdorf abruptly exit the camera's view, indicating the moment his father alerted him to the armed police at the door. A subsequent clip captured the streamer's return and explanation of events. Quote, "Yeah, I got swatted. I was lucky because the one officer, he lives in our neighborhood. They come in with guns, bro. They literally pulled up," end quote. No one was physically harmed during the incident.
So stupid. Like,
I hate this.
I don't understand.
Whenever I see stuff like this, it's like, man, I hate people.
Yeah, I just don't get. I don't understand why anybody thinks this is funny, or even if you have hate for somebody, like why even exert that hate to just do this? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I guess like the sucky thing is there really isn't much anyone can do about this.
Sure.
You know, like
Yeah,
SWAT teams or police or whoever,
Yeah, they
have to take these threats seriously.
100%.
Otherwise, the one time that you don't, it could be a real threat.
There's a podcast that I listen to called Reply All. It's by these guys that used to work for NPR, and they do stories about stuff on the internet. And they did a story about swatting, and they had someone that had been swatted on the podcast, sort of talking about his experience. And one of the things that he does is that he called his local police department. It was like, "Hey, my name is so and so. Here's my Twitch stream, and here's my address, my phone number, everything you need. If you get a call about someone claiming that I am doing something illegal, or something that would take SWAT action, can you please just call my number? That way you can verify that I'm all right and that things aren't happening poorly."
Hear that, drug dealers? Just get ahead of the curve. If you're planning on murdering somebody, just let the cops know, "Hey, here's my number and stuff. So just give me a call before you show
Hey,
up."
just give me a heads up. I want to clean up.
Yeah,
before you get here.
just give me a heads up that
No,
you're coming.
That is that's really smart. Like super responsible and like forward thinking, but also like it's stupid that he has to even do that. You know?
I mean it's one
But
way
it is
to
smart. I
protect
guess
yourself.
like if you are going to be getting big in streaming, or if you already are, like that's probably one of the smartest things you can do. Whether or not the police are going to do that,
Well,
who knows?
and maybe they don't. That's extra work. And sometimes when I think if you're a 911 dispatcher, you don't necessarily know who's called the police and been like, "Hey, call me first." But in their case, like no one gets swatted when they're not streaming. So verifying that person isn't doing something horrible is easy because you just go and check their Twitch account. You know,
Unless the murder's off camera.
There you go.
I'm telling you, I think we just told murderers how to get away with shit.
How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah.
Season something.
Is that a real TV show?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah. Close enough, right?
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. But no,
Scream
I don't know,
queens.
swatting is so dumb. I don't understand why people think it's funny. And like, I mean, I know of at least one example whenever someone got killed because of swatting. I don't know if there's
Wow.
been more.
That's crazy.
But it was the whole situation of two people were in an argument over like a Call of Duty match, right? And one of them gets swatted by the other. The person ends up getting shot and killed. Turns out that the person who sent the SWAT team in sent it to this person's old address. So the person who got killed wasn't even in the situation. It was just
Wow.
someone who happened to live in that person's old address.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's just sad.
that's some dark shit.
Yeah. Don't do it. As the SWAT team busts in right now.
Yeah. We found you in the Mediterranean Sea.
Oh, shit.
These last two news stories are from last week. The Entertainment Software Association has announced that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are working on new loot box policies for their platforms that would disclose a range of odds for a player's purchase. ESA Chief Counsel of Tech Policy, Michael Warneck, shared details last Wednesday morning, at the Federal Trade Commission's Inside the Games workshop. surrounding loot boxes as reported by Games Industry. Warnock explains what has been done prior to address loot box issues and followed with the announcement of new probability system with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo.
So the interesting thing about this, one, I mean, it's a good step, right? Like it's good to have those things displayed. I'm interested to see if it's actually going to affect sales of loot boxes. You look at like the lottery, for example, or any scratch off. All of those things legally had to have the probability of winning any prize on there, and obviously that doesn't affect anyone purchasing those things. But I mean, I guess it allows people to make an educated purchase. So,
well, I think I don't think it's going to affect the individual customer, right? Like little Bobby, who's using his mom's credit card, doesn't care what won in whatever chance he has to get the exact item he wants from Overwatch. But to the people out there that are already sort of like unchristened watchdogs of video game practices that are like on Reddit and stuff and post stuff in the Overwatch forums about shitty things that Blizzard's doing, or there was a story this week about how Fortnite had reskinned some dog and then sold it for $10 and had to refund everyone because everyone called him out and was like, hey, this is just something that you gave out for free before. I think it's good for those people, and it allows the people that would make informed decisions to continue to make them, right? Because I don't know if you spend any money on loot boxes in Overwatch, but if you knew that the actual chances of getting something that you wanted were higher than you expected or way lower than you expected, that might influence you as a consumer about whether or not you would spend money on it.
yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm not necessarily pro corporation in my thinking. I don't think I am. But in my mind, like for the Fortnite example, if people are willing to pay $10 for a reskin of a thing they gave away for free, then cool. That's how Epic or
100%.
Epic just made money. I don't know. It's like
Is it
something is worth however much people are willing to pay for it. If I got something for free and I'm able to sell it, that thing is worth that much money because someone bought it for that.
Yep.
Kind of the same thing with loot boxes. Like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm more informed than like your average day person, but like if I'm purchasing a loot box, I know that there's a very small chance of me getting anything. So it's just, I don't know, it's a weird thing of people claiming naivety towards situations like this, to where it's like, oh, I didn't know.
Naivete.
But I think that
Naivete.
that's something that game companies sort of prey off of, though, right?
Of course.
Because most of the consumers that are going to be buying a $10 dog from the Fortnite
But-
store weren't necessarily around or knew that this was an object that had been handed out before, and need someone who's longer in the community and keeps an eye on this stuff to say
Yeah,
something
but that's
about
also
it.
not just game companies. That's why this isn't. I mean, to be honest with you, the dog thing even shouldn't be an argument. That's not. You bought a dog that you didn't know was free at one point in time, but you still bought it. Like that was your fault for clicking buy.
Or you wanted
it's-
it bad enough to where you paid
Yeah, or
$10
you, or you.
whatever.
It's the same thing. I mean, clothing stores do this all the time. It's like huge 50% off sale. But what we didn't tell you is that these jeans used to be $30, but we marked them up to $50, and now they're 50% off, so they're $25. So everybody does it.
Well-
Every company does it. Loot boxes are bad. The Apex Legends thing that happened this past week is just it's like a new Apex Legends loot box out there, and they're only letting players grind for like 2 boxes. So in order to get any of the other stuff, you have to buy them. Which I think
Just like Destiny did. Kind of,
yes,
to a
yeah,
certain
kind of
degree.
like
I mean,
what.
you still got packages for leveling.
Yeah, but that's
your
the
leveling
thing.
was way slowed down.
Right, but you can still earn them the more you played, right? That's the way.
You're getting into like mobile game territory.
Yeah,
of like,
well now
you
it's
could
like
get this.
now if you
want more, you gotta
right
pay.
now if you want these Apex Legends things, I think they said upwards of like $160 or $170 just to get any of these things because you can only earn 2. That's bad. I think we can all agree like that right there is just. EA that finally EA's head is rearing in Apex Legends, right? That's just bad.
They hit it for 4 months
Sure.
or so.
Yeah, sure. But if you I'm kind of in the same mindset as you. Is like if you know what you're buying a dog.
Well,
like that's you bought it. That's
I think that companies should be required to disclose the full information regarding said dog, because I feel like as a consumer, it's sort of like buying pops, right? Like you buy a pop, and then 6 months later they reissue a pop, and you know that this pop, and it's the same dude, right? It's the same dude, but you know that this is a second edition pop. You know that
Yeah.
it's not a part of the original wave. So from a collector's standpoint, whenever you're buying, you know what you're looking for. I don't want this version of the pop. I want this original one because it's more valuable. I think that, like, as a company, you have a responsibility to disclose, like, hey, we gave out a similar item like this before. If you missed out, now you can buy it for $10. And companies won't disclose. A lot of companies do this. It's not exclusive to video games, but we're a video game podcast, so
Sure, yeah.
I don't know everything about
Let's
other
talk
companies.
about clothes.
Yeah,
But
no,
I
I'm
think
not-
that the ESA and the FTC have a responsibility to sort of keep companies in check, and that's not excusing
Sure.
stupid consumers. But if a video game
that's
company has
the-
an option to take advantage of someone in an
Sure.
unscrupulous way, they're going to do it.
Sure, but that's where it's almost like we have to choose our fight. Am I going to choose the fight against stupid consumer? Because the Fortnite thing is literally just somebody doing their research before they hit buy. That's all that is, and that's on the consumer. I don't feel like that. I don't personally feel like that's on the developer to be like, oh, this is just a reskin, everybody, blah blah blah. That's on, I don't know. I've been out of Destiny for 4 or 5 months now. If Destiny has like a reskin, I wouldn't know it, but it's my job to go check to see if they're selling something I could have got for free. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
I agree. I
Or
think
it's like someone buying like a PlayStation Plus game, maybe the month after it was free on PlayStation. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
sure,
like,
yeah,
like
something
it was
that.
free.
Yeah, or
It
like
doesn't mean I need to get it free now because I didn't purchase it
this
then.
has happened multiple times. I've bought something and then it was free. Or Whitney and I this literally just happened to us. What the hell was it? Oh, I bought her an Instax camera. You know the
Yeah.
I
The
bought her one.
Polaroid
Yeah, I
things,
bought
yeah.
her one for her birthday, and literally the day after her birthday, it went on sale for 50% off. And it's like, you can't really do anything. I guess you could game the system and take it back and be like, oh, it's broken, I need a new one. But like, those are the things. It's like, I just got to deal with that consequence.
And I've said this before on the podcast, and I still stand by this. Like, when a bad transaction happens through a video game store, who's responsible? Well, it's one part the developer for having a bad transaction,
Yeah.
but another part it's the consumer for not being educated about their purchases.
Sure.
But like, you have loot boxes, right? That are something that
those are just bad. Yeah.
sure, but I don't think that the original intent of loot boxes was horrible. I
agree.
I think that they're a fun mechanic that people can have fun with, but then you have companies like EA that have manipulated the system to the point where countries are banning loot
Yeah,
boxes.
I agree.
Surprise mechanics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
surprise
because-
mechanics.
because
Not
no
loot
one was
boxes,
keeping an
right.
eye on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. This news article, I 1,000% agree with. Loot boxes need to be wrangled in. I think individual purchases aren't. Yeah, sure. Would it be nice if the developer was like, "Hey, BT Dubs, this is just a reskin thing we gave out for free a year ago. Just letting you know." Sure, that's nice, but I don't think they're obligated to do that. It's good on them if they do. Like, hey,
Yeah.
thanks, man.
They're
I
not
just-
obligated,
yeah.
but I think they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and-
I think they should legally be obligated to do
Yeah,
it. Whether or not
maybe.
they do it out of the good of their heart, I don't
Yeah,
give a shit about.
then we're talking about changing even just our entire economy. Then, like,
I mean, maybe, but like
McDonald-
I don't know. Like as adults, we can probably look at this and be like, "Yeah, you made a stupid decision."
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Whenever I was a kid, like, I bought a ton of stupid things.
sure.
And if there was a company or entire industry built around like, how can I more or less trick you into spending as much money as possible?
There is. It's called Walmart.
Which, yes.
Well, I mean, but you're
but video games and some more than others can prey on people who don't really know, maybe to the extent of how much money they're spending, or that they're spending their money not wisely because it could be something that you have a less than 1% chance of getting.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the collectibles industry, though. I
100%.
mean, like that's 100% the case when you buy action figures or even Pokemon cards. You can go and as a kid, like there was that first wave of Pokemon cards that came out, and Charizard was a really rare pull for a lot of people, and it was out there. When Wizards repackaged these cards and put them out, they all said second edition on them so that they didn't fuck over the collector's market. They made it very clear that, yeah, you have a Charizard. Your Charizard is really cool, but it is not an original Charizard, which means that it's not as
cool.
worth as much as the original Charizard.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you still got your Charizard.
Yeah.
And I think if video games want to emulate the collectibles industry, they need to operate like the collectibles
Yeah,
industry.
the only issue with that is I agree where you're coming from, but the only issue is it's all digital. There's no such thing as value in digital anything. You know what I mean? So it'd be really.
there hasn't been.
I agree with you. I think it would be great for video games to emulate the collectors industry, but you just can't because it's like. it's not worth anything. It's just a digital. It's worth as much as they charge for it, right? And then from there, it's never going to be worth anything. Counter-Strike, I think there's definitely like that weird niche market that exists. The Bitcoin shit. Counter-Strike is a real. I think I remember reading an article once, like a knife skin in Counter-Strike. Somebody paid like $500 to $1,000 for it. Like, and it's just a knife skin.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like even Rocket League. Like, I have a couple skins that if I wanted to, I could trade online for real money. I mean, there's a ton of markets for that.
And the issue is that there are definitely people out there that see that as collectibles, but I think the majority of people realize that it's just
code.
You know what I mean?
And I agree with that, except for in the instance when we're talking about putting a price on something.
Sure, yeah. Once a price is put on something,
Yeah.
it's worth money. You're 1,000% right.
Like you're selling the second edition dog for
us,
$10,
yeah.
when really like it's probably only worth $5.
Yeah, but
you know?
us as consumers, that's where that whole thing, that overlap. Us as consumers have got to be smarter than that, right? If so, like they've re-released the Revan figure, but it's instead of the original.
If you see that, let me know because
Okay.
I want it.
Okay, instead of the original Black Series box, it's in an archive box, which is a bubble and a card back.
That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Then they re-released it though, so you can actually have Revan as a figure.
Is it the same figure though?
Same figure, exact same figure, exact
You
same
see it,
mold. and
please let me
everything.
know
Yeah, no
because
problem.
I want it. I gave Chris my original one.
He did. He gave me his Revan, and it's hanging up. Well, it was hanging up above my desk, and it will be hanging up somewhere whenever we get to that.
Right now, it's in a box.
It's
somewhere.
in a box and it's safe, and that's one of the prized figures of my Star Wars collection because it's Revan. Anyway,
I still need to give you the Keyblade.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting.
But that's a really good example. Right now, it's like I know that Revan isn't the same Revan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how you do that in video games because it's all digital.
And again, like I don't necessarily think to a certain degree that my solutions to this problem are the right ones.
But I think
because
there's
it's more complex than I'm
Sure,
making it out to be.
but I
that's
think
what I believe.
I think they're a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's just hard to implement that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's all more or less like uncharted territory.
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Like we have never had to experience these problems with like digital
Yeah, it's
selling things digitally.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, imagine if Destiny, you could trade digital items, like, and I could trade that bad juju for real world money. You know, it's just it's so stupid to me. It's
Yeah.
just so fucking dumb.
But it's something that I
but
mean,
it's
maybe not
something
Destiny's example, but like in the near future, that is going to become more common. You know?
And that's to me, that's a real scary world.
Yeah.
That's why I hate like stuff like Venmo, because it's one thing taking actual money, putting it into a bank, and then withdrawing it. But putting it into a bank and then transferring it through Venmo, you've basically just turned the actual money that you had into pure digital code.
Oh yeah.
Well,
no, I had the same thought because we had just purchased, or
and it scares the shit out of me.
we had just moved into our new house, right? And most of the time you had to pay with like a cashier's check or something.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we needed to put all of our money into one account first, and then have
Sure,
that cashier's
yeah.
check. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll Venmo Bree the money, and it was a large amount of money.
Sure.
And so it was just crazy to be like, I can literally just type in Bree's email.
Yep.
I type in this amount of money.
Yep.
And then it's just gone out of my account and into hers.
But the thing is right. At least I know it doesn't. I know it's not as simple as this. But to me, as soon as it goes into that Venmo thing, it stops being real money. It stops being worth anything, and it just becomes digital code. And to me, digital code's not worth shit because it's all just you can sit there and create whatever the fuck you want in a digital world.
They now have a Venmo debit card that you can use to spend your balance directly through Venmo, which means that it does have a real world value.
Sure, yeah.
since doing that.
It still just scares the
But
shit out of
in
me.
the case of video games, right, in the world, and this is, I mean, we've already seen something like this exist, which was the auction house for Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Part of the problem that you run into is that as a collector, Chris, you can take your Revan figure somewhere and you can sell it, and you can sell it for whatever price you want. And really, what price you sell it depends on who's going to buy it. Sure. But now, if you're selling through a game, you're probably going to be selling through the game's marketplace, which means that Bungie is going to get a cut of however much you sell it for, which then means that the price that you sell it at is determined by how much you're going to lose.
But it also go that inflates the price.
Yeah, you got to mess
So-
with the profit margin. And,
So if you're trying to sell a skin for $10, and Destiny's taking or Bungie's taking 30% of that, then now you have to sell it for 13, which isn't a huge deal, but it's artificially. I almost said ejaculating.
yep, that.
It's artificially, and I almost said inseminating. Now it's artificially
Increasing?
artificial
Increasing, yeah.
ejaculation.
inflating.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Artificially
It's ejaculating.
Yeah,
inflating.
no, it's artificial
price.
ejaculation. That's got to be the title of the podcast
Yeah.
now. Artificial ejaculation.
Anyway.
That's gonna get a lot of clicks. One of the most viewed, aside from like Greg Miller and Nick
Yeah,
Scarpino, it was the
it's-
sex video games.
Yeah.
And I looked at because on YouTube you can see like how people found your video game
Sure,
or
they
how
just type in sex.
it's like sex or like video game
Sure,
sex
yeah,
or
yeah.
something. I was like, oh, you horny teenagers.
Artificial ejaculation. Love it.
Artificially ejaculating.
That needs to be your gamer tag now. Get rid of Darth Trey.
I
just
I
calls-
will
just
get
call-
banned.
You just gotta spell it like with some threes.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about fucking like the price of something that you can't actually sell. My PSN ID is probably worth several $100s because I only buy things through the PlayStation Store anymore.
Oh, sure.
Even
I
though it
see
doesn't
what
have
you
an
mean.
actual real
Yeah,
world
okay,
value
yeah.
in terms of value.
I
that,
see
like,
what
you
you,
meant
I see
your
what you
name.
mean. No,
No.
I see what he means. Just how much money he's invested into
Yeah.
his PlayStation account.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you'll never get that. You'll never
I'll
get
never
yeah,
get that
yeah,
back.
Exactly.
I will never recoup that loss,
Right.
but that doesn't change the value of the thing.
Right. Which is, again, why I'm scared. I don't like the digital future, even though I have some digital games. I like having the physical thing because in the future, hell, I don't know, fucking my Borderlands 2 could be worth more than what I paid for it in 100 years. You know what I mean?
Except
Except it won't.
It's the
Sure,
same.
I understand
Right,
that.
right,
It's
Just
the same
saying,
problem. It's the same problem with comic books. The reason why comic books aren't worth anything
because they
anymore.
print way too fucking many.
Exactly.
Of them. Yeah,
If
100%.
you're looking for a Borderlands 3 or Borderlands 2
Yep.
Xbox 360 disc, there are millions out there.
100%.
And millions that haven't even left store shelves.
Unless we hit like a video game burning era, in
Oh, there you go.
right
Like
of the
E.T.?
Yeah, like the ET.
where
Yeah.
like they all ended up like millions of copies of ET ended up in some
Oh
landfill
yeah, I
in
thought
New
you meant the
Mexico.
movie. It's like
No.
what? They didn't burn video games in ET. It
No,
was
they
about an
burned
alien.
ET.
Did they?
Yeah.
They didn't burn? No, they didn't.
No.
That's why
they
they
just-
flew away on the bike.
They were going to burn him. I
Yeah,
thought
he
they
was on
just wanted to
fire.
study him.
He already looked like. Never, I'm.
Oh.
Wah, wah.
But yeah, no, they put it all in a landfill. That's exactly where my mind went to.
Yeah, and so now ET's worth. If you can find a copy of ET, it's worth a little bit of money.
I think since they found the fucking landfill,
Did
where
they
the ET
really?
Cartridges are
Oh,
at,
I didn't know they
it
found
actually
it. That's
decreased
funny.
the value of the game
That's
because
really
you can just
funny.
go to this landfill and get a copy.
That's really funny. I didn't know they found it.
It's like an excavating site. You just kind of like, oh, found one.
Dusting it off with the really nice like feather dusters. Yeah.
Yeah. Last up on our news section, following the 2 mass shootings in Dayton, Ohio and El Paso, Texas, President Trump pointed at video games specifically as a root cause for mass shootings. Quote, "We must stop the glorification of violence in our society," he said. "This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It's too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this, and it has to begin immediately," end quote. As a result, Walmart has decided to take down displays advertising violent video games while still selling guns, and ESPN and ABC opted to pull the broadcast of the X Games Apex EXP Invitational that was scheduled last weekend. So, I mean, we're late to this conversation. It's not like this
little bit.
conversation hasn't been happening all over the internet and
But
has
it's still being
turned
had.
into a meme.
Yeah.
So,
It's a good thing that there was never any violence before video games.
I mean,
Our great grandfathers
I
did not
don't
fight in
even-
wars.
I mean, I don't even think that dismantles the argument. Just the rest of the world dismantles this argument.
Right.
You know,
A lot of things dismantle the
yeah,
argument.
there's plenty of things to dismantle it, but the rest of the world is a very good indication, especially Japan, who has a larger video game culture than we do. Probably not as violent as video games, but they're there. And the amount of mass shootings in the last 4 years is just a fraction. compared.
and-
Reggie Fils-Aimé, real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
To piggyback off that Japan thing, Reggie Fils-Aimé posted a thing showing the amount of gun violence that's happened, I think in 2017, because that's like the last solid statistic we have, versus game sales per capita. South Korea is the largest purchaser of video games in the world.
Okay.
As of 2019.
That's weird.
And 2017,
a real
they
small country to
ranked,
be
I think,
the
the
largest.
lowest or near the bottom of actual gun deaths and mass shootings in their country.
Sure. So like I'm not my degree is in history. Let's make this insanely clear. But I took a lot of sociology classes in college. And sociology is a study of statistics and shit like that, where you have to cross-reference one statistic with another. I would think that that's an insanely good argument, and I'm not trying to dismantle that argument because it's insanely good and it's insanely right. However, South Korea is also bordering the most egregious fucking country on this planet, next to us. Let's be honest.
But also, I mean, into that
So
fact too,
South Korea is
how
a
many
fair-
video games do they have?
South Korea is a
in
fairly
North Korea.
peaceful, sure.
The major, I think the U.S. ranked number 3 or number 4. The major flaw with the South Korea argument is correlation does not equal causation.
Sure.
But that also points out the major flaw in claiming that video games are the cause of mass shootings in the United States.
100%. Yeah.
They both have the same fatal flaw.
But the issue is like, and without getting into fucking politics, because I'd rather fucking not. I think we're all in agreement with where we're at in politics in this fucking country right now. I think we all are. Yes.
100% red.
Yeah. Wow. Without getting too far into politics, it's an issue of not wanting to accept a root cause.
Mm-hmm.
The root cause is insanely clear. I mean,
I don't know, personally, not to interrupt you. Personally, I don't know how we can properly have this conversation without at least talking about the political culture.
Sure,
that might be
sure,
surrounding
that's
it.
fine. Like I said, I don't want to get like too deep into it, but it's just because we're all on the same page. I know we are, but the root cause is insanely clear. And if it's not clear to you, either you've literally been living under a rock or you're in denial. It's not hard to figure out what the problem is. The other problem that is compounding on top of that is we've got a United States government that refuses to actually look at the problem because their payroll is the problem. Does that make sense? Their payroll is literally directly influenced by the problem.
And their constituents are the problem.
But that's what I mean. Their payroll. Their
payroll comes from.
Yeah, where their payroll comes from is the fucking problem.
Right.
You know, I personally am I'm an avid gun owner. You know this. I have a handgun. I have a rifle at the house. My dad and I both own multiple guns. We enjoy going and shooting them. But Daniel Stedham and I had this exact conversation. I would gladly get rid of any of that to not see 6-year-olds getting shot at Walmart. Right. You know what I mean? But the problem
there's an understanding of like the greater good.
Right. The problem is that there are the not me, the 1% who makes the decisions are not willing to do that for whatever fucking reason. They're also not willing to come to any sort of compromise, even though even though Trump literally sat in front of our entire fucking nation 1 week ago and said, I was meeting with officials and we are looking at stricter gun laws and stricter background checks when buying guns. And literally a week later, after he had a meeting with the fucking NRA, that is gone. Right. That entire statement he made in front of the entire fucking nation is null and void.
Well, and not to, I am.
This is why I don't want to get in politics.
In my personal opinion, I fully believe that everyone should have to turn in their guns. I think the guns should be outlawed in the United States. I think there are too many examples of countries that have banned guns, and you have seen a direct impact on their crime rates and violence in their country. That being said, although that is my opinion, I also have, from my own experience, and I can't say that this is everyone's experience, I only know from my experience, everyone that I know that legally owns a gun is a responsible person who would never do something like this. Mm-hmm. So, you know, to a certain degree, I understand the argument of guns not being the issue. I think I agree with that argument. I don't think that gun owners are the issue. I think the problem is that you have a president that was completely elected by a group of disenfranchised white young men who feel like the world is against them and have been told that the people that they're going after are violent criminals that are trying to take their jobs and take their women and take their space in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's my issue. is, you have someone that's out there that's not saying, and maybe they play violent video games. I don't know. But the video games aren't the root cause. The root cause is there's someone sitting in the White House that has directly said, like, when a liberal protester got run over by a car driven by an incel and a white supremacist, he gets in front of the fucking country and says, well, there are good people on both sides. People running around wearing fucking white hoods and having tiki torches and saying horrible racist things about Jews and black people. It's easier to avoid the problem because you don't want to call your voters out than it is, and then point to video games, which has been the scapegoat for decades, than it is to actually address and fix the issue, which is making these people feel included in the country where they should feel included.
Even so, getting back to the topic, even though for decades it's been disproven that video games have any correlation or root cause to violence.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's blatant ignorance for 2 points. For them to look at this situation or situations like this where it's clear that people are even saying
I wouldn't call it ignorance. I'd call it flat out denial.
Sure. Yes. Sorry.
Because they know when fucking Oxford, one of the most prestigious colleges in the fucking planet, puts out a study saying that freaking video games do not correlate to gun violence, and you just flat out refuse to listen to that. That's called denial, not ignorance.
Well, and not even necessarily. So
I would
that.
excuse ignorance because that's just a matter of somebody learning.
Yeah, you just need to educate them.
Right. So blatant denial. With that in mind, not even them ignoring these studies that have been conducted by very smart minds across the world and the United States, whatever. Not even just ignoring that, ignoring the fact that these people who are committing these crimes are literally saying, hey, here's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, they're putting up manifestos that are hundreds of pages long.
Literally manifestos that not once has
they've never been like, I did
video
this because of
games.
Grand Theft Auto. They're
Right.
like, no, I did this because Mexicans are scary.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't see people showing up with guns with stickers
can be.
of doom on them or anything. Second point, also in that same point too, kind of how you were talking about how none of these people have claimed to, be into violent video games, or maybe they have, maybe they haven't, who knows. But the fact is, like, if we did a study of, all of these people who committed mass shootings all enjoyed How I Met Your Mother, we're not going to go after Neil Patrick Harris.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with the situation.
That's the thing too. Another thing we really have to Another thing you really have to look at is that so a really good example in because like I said, I am pro owning firearms because my dad and we enjoy going out.
You're
and
a
shooting.
gun owner.
I'm a gun owner. I'm pro owning guns. And a really good example of this is honestly Iceland. Like, I think per person at Iceland, I think the statistic is almost 1-to-1. It's very, very close. And you know how many mass shootings there have been in Iceland? Zero in the last 25 years.
Directly to your point, Israel. In order, as a citizen of Israel, you have to serve a certain amount of time in the military in Israel. 2 years.
Yeah.
And you are issued a gun during that time. And when you are let out of the military, you still own that gun. It is still in your house.
Yep.
And so every person that's above the age of 18, unless they have some reason that they couldn't join the military, owns a gun and has it in their house. And you don't. And Israel mass shootings don't happen in Israel. They happen around Israel.
100%. And then they have
beside the point, but yes,
very, 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 very true. Yeah. But that's the thing is like you there's arguments on both sides. Like I said, I'm very much pro owning guns because you can look at a country like Israel or a country like Iceland where almost every single citizen of that country owns a firearm, but the amount of mass shootings is either none and or minuscule compared to our country. But then you use these statistics like, well, look at Ireland. Ireland has no mass shootings in the last 10 years. Sure, but let's talk about mass bombings in Ireland because of the IRA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the issue. That's another huge issue in my head is that's radicalness, right? Mm-hmm. That is the radicalness that, especially our fucking president, is
inciting.
Yeah, incite. Mm-hmm. He's not
encouraging. He's not dismaying it.
Thank you. He's not specifically going in front of all these people and going like, "I need you to hate Mexicans so I can get." But he's not stopping it. He's inciting it. He's not stopping any of this. And it's the same thing with like the IRA, right? The IRA has this North Ireland and Ireland. One of my good friends is from Ireland. He's like, dude, there's bombings daily in Ireland. And that's the thing. It's like it's a matter of radicalness in countries like that, and
but moving back to the United States, one of the big problems that we have here is that mass shootings aren't committed by mentally healthy people.
That was good. That was
9
good.
out of the 10
That's
people
where I was
that have
going.
committed a mass
Yes.
shooting are mentally
That,
ill.
that's kind. I honestly didn't want
I
to
would
be.
say 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's
once
an
you reach that
exception.
point.
There's probably like
See,
one
and
asshole
that-
who's
that's
just like, I'm just going to go. There's nothing wrong with me. I just want to go shoot up this mall.
No,
today.
see, but
I don't
that's
know.
that's
See, once you get to
that's
that point.
like
But,
once
no,
once
I'm
you
just
start,
saying, like,
yeah.
I don't know
Benefit
for
of the
sure.
doubt.
I don't know for sure that
Sure,
every
but what-
person
like
that's committed
any,
a mass shooting.
I don't know. I am not a psychologist. I have no fucking anything in this. But if you ever had the thought that I just think I'm just going to go shoot some people today, I would. I mean, there's a case closed in my book. You are mentally unstable. Like something is wrong.
Right. It might
That
not be
is-
severe,
Sure.
as severe as some others.
Sure, but there's something wrong.
something
but
there.
but it's really like, and my whole problem with the way that the Republicans are addressing this issue.
Let's say right wing, because I don't like. I know a few Republicans that are like they're good. They're not.
We're a two-party system, right?
Yeah,
Means
sure.
the same
Okay,
thing
you know
as
what? Sure,
Republican.
fine. You know what? Fine.
But my problem with the Republicans not directly addressing it and this issue is that we're not doing something to fix the problem. If you can determine,
yeah, we are. It's
what,
video games.
yeah. If
Did
we-
you not read
well,
the article?
Did
or?
you not read?
well, and if we can determine what the exact issue why people are committing these sort of heinous crimes against humanity is, then we can address it from a therapy standpoint,
Sure.
and get people the help they need to live happy and productive lives.
Sure.
But by avoiding the issue, we're avoiding the solution to the issue, which means that not only are these things going to stop happening, but you are directly affecting people's jobs, people's source of income, people's stability, and things that make people happy and also have been proven to stop crimes from happening.
Sure.
This thing that is a positive force in the universe. Yeah, we get on here every week and we talk about loot boxes and how much they suck. But I think overall, the impact that video games have on most people's life is a positive impact. And we're going to try to fix that. We're going to try to disrupt that issue in exchange for not dealing with the actual issue.
See, now
Right.
I think that is ignorance. I think when you're pointing toward, let's say Republicans, sure, if you're a Republican really getting behind the idea that video games are the issue, I think that there's a lot of ignorance in that. I think if they were to sit down and actually watch video games and maybe follow somebody around who plays video games, see what video games do. I've seen, you see things on the internet all the time is like people get over crippling anxiety because of the social aspect of video games. Video games are literally, maybe not literally, but in a way, healing mental problems, right? It's a way to get over this depression and anxiety and just suicidal thoughts even. You know what I mean? This is the impact that video games actually have, but you need a reason to blame them so you don't actually look at that.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot.
there's
It's
where
a
that
lot
ig-
easier.
I think
to,
there's where that ignorance comes from.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to blame something that you just don't understand.
Sure.
Guns make sense. You pull the trigger and bullets come out.
Sure.
But video games,
But
that's a weird waste of time
but
that
even
my
again,
grandson
yeah.
does.
Sure.
And he needs to stop
Yeah.
because he gets angry sometimes.
Yeah, even again, like to Trey's point too, it's like, guns they were 100% engineered to kill things.
Right.
That is what they were engineered to do. They
First
weren't,
rule of guns is if you're going to
do
fire
not
a gun,
do not point that barrel at anything you're not willing to kill.
Yeah. Right.
That is number one. If you do not point that gun to anybody or anything that you are not willing to take that life, that is rule, like you were saying, rule fucking number one.
I think you would have to be in denial to not agree that something needs to be done. What needs to be done, who knows? But where I stand on it is this.
There's
So
definitely
you,
things
so
that
you,
could be done. I'm what Trey was saying earlier. I really, are the actual physical firearms the problem? I think they're a factor, but I don't think they're the problem.
Right.
I think the problem is the radicalness. It's
Right, it's the person using
inciting.
the
mental
gun.
illness.
It's a mental instability. Yeah,
Right.
mental illness, mental instability. However you want to
I
frame
think
it.
the first thing in my opinion, I think what you need to do to fix this problem is deal with the mental illness, and I think that you also need to put more restrictions on who can own a gun.
I agree.
Well, I think restrictions on who can own a gun and what type of guns. Like,
I think-
Well,
I personally, so where I
There's no
stand on
reason
guns,
for an assault rifle to exist in the United States.
there isn't. Whether it be semi-automatic or I know fully automatic guns are illegal. Like, there's no reason for that. Like, I have no problem with people owning pistols or rifles or things for hunting or things like that.
Sure.
I get it. People like to have hobbies and people like to hunt. That's fine for the most part.
Sure.
I have a problem with the fact that someone can hold down a trigger and kill 9 people or 12 people in less than a minute.
Sure.
You know, like that's what happened in Dayton, Ohio. This person was taken down in less than a minute.
Sure.
And had they not been stopped, they would have been, they would have killed even more.
Sure.
But the fact that they were able to hold down a trigger and kill that many people is insane. And there's never a situation where you need that. There's never a situation, even if you're pointing to your Second Amendment rights of your right to own right and bear arms, so that way you can defend yourself against the government.
Sure.
You're never
Except
going to
we have
need to
fucking
mow
drones.
down
Yeah, 100%.
a bunch of people. If you need to take out one person, an intruder, you can do that with your rifle, you can do that with a pistol, whatever. But you don't need to be able to wipe out mass amounts of people in any situation other than military.
War.
Yeah.
Sure. And even then, like, it's war. You know,
Right.
That doesn't. That's
Send a drone. I don't know.
a whole nother,
Yeah,
whole nother fucking thing.
well, I mean, that's the argument against us being able to rise up against the fucking government. Guess what? If there was some mass rebellion, you think we'd be shooting at soldiers? No, we would be getting bombed by drones.
Right, exactly. So
So
that's
your
where I
AR
stand
doesn't make
on
a
it.
difference in that situation.
Yeah, there's no reason why people need to own those things other than the fact of like, oh well, I want to. It's like, well, that's,
Yeah, you want to. And,
I want to do a lot of
I
things.
want
that I
to
can't
own a
do.
panda. That does not mean that it's legal for me to own a panda.
Right, and then whenever the
Sure.
Constitution was written, they could not have imagined the technology and guns that we would have now. Back then, you could shoot once, and then it would take you 3 minutes to reload. In that amount of time, you could get taken down by a good person with a gun,
Sure,
or
I-
anyone.
A tomahawk.
I think people point their amendments to all of that really highlight the fact that was written a long time ago.
Right.
But even those amendments are still like they were written by old white guys.
Right.
100%. And I agree with you. Like it's like, oh, this is this right that was written in 1778. The Bill of Rights. The-
76?
Declaration
No,
of
no, no,
Independence,
no, no.
No,
1787.
I can't remember when all the 10 the Bill of Rights were actually like finally. I can't
1787.
remember. 87? No, it's not 87. Is it?
I'm looking it up.
1776
I can't remember.
Declaration
Anyway,
of Independence.
anyway.
1787.
You're right. There's no way they
Bill
would
of
have
Rights.
known that technology would have been anywhere near what it is nowadays, and that's why the amendments exist.
86.
You were technically the closest, 1791.
91.
That was whenever the Second Amendment, or the,
No,
The
that's
first 10
when,
amendments of the U.S.
Yeah.
Constitution
Right, Bill of
ratified
Rights.
in 1791,
Yep.
and then going on.
that doesn't sound right. It doesn't flow off the tongue.
No, but that's the way it works. It's because after 1776, we spent 20 years like really trying to get away from British rule. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
Hard. Anyway, yeah, I hate that video games got pulled back into it, but I also think that there are plenty of people out there, especially in the Democratic Party, that realize that that's not the cause, and they're not going to fight that cause. They're going to fight the right cause. I hope. Because it's just dumb. And it's not a matter of me wanting video games out of the spotlight because I don't want to lose my video games. It's a matter of getting video games out of the spotlight because that's not the issue. I don't want to keep seeing 6-year-olds being killed inside of a Walmart, and all you argue is video games when it's not the fucking problem.
No, I mean, like, it's the argument is less about the video game industry. I don't think is going to be really impacted by this. Like, if you're worried about,
Oh, of course not.
If you're worried about the video game industry and being impacted by anything, you should be worried about this new trade deal or the trade tariffs that Trump
Sure.
is setting up against China. That is directly going to impact not only the companies but the consumer as well.
Sure.
Video games are going to be excessively expensive. We will keep trucking on as video games will continue to be developed because it hasn't been stopped before. The problem with this conversation is that it's insulting. you're the people that run our government are basically calling us idiots by trying to tell us that an issue exists that doesn't exist. We have to argue against something that we all know is factually incorrect and wrong. It's just insulting because it's like, how do I know more that's going on than you? Or you're making it painfully aware that you're avoiding the issue because it's going to affect your pocketbook.
That's it right there. Sure, I get the insult. I get where you're coming from. That it's insulting, but the to me that far just is under the radar of just avoiding the true fucking issue. And we're going to keep having children be killed. Innocent people are going to be killed because for 20 years now or however long, dude, we've had 251 mass shootings in America and we're like on day 220. Are you fucking kidding me? There's been more than one mass shooting a day in 2019. Are you fucking kidding me?
Right. There's been a total of 4 mass shootings since the last time we recorded the podcast.
Are you fucking kidding me? So, and that's the thing is like, that's going to keep happening because we're over here arguing about video games or we're over here arguing about something that's not the point. That's not the issue. It's just
right. But then you have Walmart taking down their video game advertisements for violent
but
video
they're
games.
Still selling guns.
But then you can go down the next aisle. But
I did want to take a sidebar from that though. So if you want to finish that point, I'll make a point about Walmart.
Yeah, sure. No, go for it. I was just gonna like reiterate. It's like sure, that's really dumb and like ironic. It's like, oh, we're not gonna show gun violence when we're gonna sell guns. But again, I'm on that side. It's like it's not the games, but it's also not the guns. It's the thing. It's the person doing the thing. You know what I mean? So
I also don't want to fault Walmart for taking some sort of action.
Hey, at least they're taking some action. But
they should be faulted because it's very hypocritical to be like, oh, we're going to pull
Thank you. Hypocritical.
It's
not
very
ironic.
hypocritical. Yes,
not ironic. Hypocritical.
It's hypocritical for them to be like, we're going to still sell guns but take down these advertisements because Trump said so. That being said, removing the hypocrisy of the situation, I don't think that violent video games should be marketed as freely as they are. I think that if you put an M rating on something, then it should be marketed to an adult audience in an adult setting. Like for example, like a rated R movie, you're not going to find that in advertised highly in Walmart because it's not for children, right? And I think video games should be treated the same way. It's really annoying as a former employee of GameStop to see kids walk in and be like, I want to play Grand Theft Auto, and their parents know nothing about Grand Theft Auto, when the kid probably shouldn't be playing that game, and the parents aren't well enough informed about the product to not buy it because their kid saw some advertisement, and they know more about the thing than their parents do.
The kid shouldn't even know about that video game.
Yeah, they shouldn't. And part of the reason why they do is because you could walk into Walmart that week and you see all the Grand Theft Auto posters up. So yeah, I agree with the sentiment, not for gun violence. I don't think that that's the issue at all. I think that you should probably have your marketing in Walmart be age neutral. And I think that includes not directly advertising products that are intended for an adult only audience. They're still hypocrites because that's not why they're doing it.
Yeah, I think.
But I that's just how I feel.
I think I'm trying to remember back to our kiosks at GameStop. I think that's kind of already a thing. I'm trying to remember back and seeing they always showed the trailers and shit in kiosks. Like, I feel like the most violent thing that I always remember was Broforce.
Well, but you also walk by the window and you see the window inserts for Grand Theft Auto.
Sure, yeah,
sure.
Right.
Which and I don't necessarily know that GameStop should be held to the same standard.
No,
because I don't think that GameStop has the same amount of children traffic as a Walmart does.
Sure, but you know who does? But that's the thing is,
and they're exclusively selling one item.
Yeah, but you know who does? That's the thing is like that. That's where we get. Now we're getting broad. Like now we've got to take into account all entertainment media. We've got to worry about a 14-year-old or a 10-year-old getting dropped off at the movie theater and the newest, John Wick movie, which is a super fucking awesome movie that everybody loves. But what's the guy doing the entire movie? He's fucking killing people. And it's super badass doing it. And that's, people see that, 10-year-olds see that. They maybe not see the movie, of course, but they can see the movie poster and they know what it is. And even now it's super easy to just go to the internet and be like, John Wick, whole movie,
Sure.
right? And so that's the thing is like, you know, while I agree steps need to be taken, it doesn't. If we're going to take steps, let's take full steps and not
Well,
quarter steps.
it's also, like, YouTube
Let's
is-
look at the movie industry. Let's look at the music industry. The music industry. There's people literally just rapping and singing about just killing whoever. How is that? Oh, and that's easy. You don't have to be a certain age to buy a fucking song off iTunes. You just fucking hit because it's well, you do, but
Yeah.
it's easy. It's
Yeah, I mean,
insanely
it's
easy.
a lot easier than walking into Walmart.
Or it's insanely easy
Or
to walk
listening
into
to the
a
radio,
GameStop and buying Grand Theft Auto.
Well, but YouTube's a really good example of like that process of advertising not working in
Yeah.
the sense that like if you're a 13-year-old kid, the chances of you seeing a rated R trailer as an advertisement before going into a YouTube video are relatively low. But a trailer for something like Borderlands 3, which isn't necessarily overly violent, but is the trailers have been
gun
pretty
heavy.
adult.
Yeah, it's very gun heavy.
You're just as likely to see that as a 13-year-old as
Yep.
you are as a 26-year-old.
Yep.
But it's also hard too because the most popular video games nowadays are those games, are GTA, are Call
Sure.
of Duty. So
But-
what games are you going to advertise?
But I would
FIFA and Mario?
I mean, yeah, I think that's what you do because that's what you do for movies. You know, it's a little bit easier to make the argument for movies because the highest grossing movies are PG and PG-13.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
But for video games, like I don't know why you would treat it any different than the way that you treat movies.
Because then we're getting into a territory that video games could die because they're not advertising the highest grossing video games. And maybe that's
then
something
you
that
need
die.
to figure out your rating system
Sure,
because like
yeah.
the reality of that situation is that if you are saying that this game is rated M for mature, only 17-year-old or older can buy these games in a store, but you're marketing them to 13-year-olds.
Sure.
That's
That's
hypocritical.
true. Yeah.
Sure, 100%. It's just really hard to man. It's really hard to not market to every, and it's not hard to as a gaming company to market to specific demographics.
Right.
It's
But
hard.
how
to,
do you get the word out
It's
there to
hard to
everyone, or
regulate
to those
that
people?
market. You know, it's really fucking hard to regulate that marketing because it's just so easy
But
nowadays.
that's literally why the FTC exists, and that's why there's so
Sure.
many restrictions on movies and how
Sure.
YouTube can advertise to their
sure,
customers.
but it's the problem is it still happens.
Sure, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
but
like-
like the idea isn't to make these things not happen 100%.
Sure, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just to decrease the
decrease
chances
it.
of them
Sure,
happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
like
I mean, I see the argument, but it's also like we're now trying to fit like this regulation on like video game advertisements or violent video game advertisements. We're trying to fit that into like, well, how should this happen? Whenever in actuality, like the reason why it's kind of difficult to figure out, like, well, what should they take down? Where should these things be marketed? And how should they properly market these things? The problem why we're having so much trouble with this is because, like, ultimately, it's still not the problem, you know?
well, I mean, and this is I'm not talking about
Yeah, no,
this
I
point I've
see what
moved
you're-
on.
yeah.
My point is that we already have a system in place to market violent content towards kids.
Right.
The way that movies and television show advertisement work is the exact same way that video games should work. But the problem is that we have a large base of people that are in charge of setting regulations for video game companies that don't know anything about the industry. The majority of people that play video games, especially on console and PC, are people aged 19 to 35. So you're not actually advertising to a kids market because kids aren't buying console games. They just aren't. And it also shows that most of these people don't understand the product enough to have any sort of respect for who it should be marketed to. Like the same regulations that exist for movies and television should exist for video games too. We should take that seriously because we take it seriously for everything else. And if video game companies think they're going to be impacted by that decision,
Stop making violent video games.
or start making your games fit to an audience, the audience that you're trying to sell to. It's just unscrupulous business practices that video game companies get away with because there is no regulation. When we regulate things that are equally as impressionable in a far more strict manner. But that's just my opinion.
Well said.
Quick
Take
saves.
it back.
2.6 million player-created game types from Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo Reach were successfully transferred for future access in Halo the Master Chief Collection. Revealed on Halo's Twitter, this transfer was the first one that will be followed by custom maps on August 26, 2019 at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. ET.
Neat.
And last up in quick saves, THQ Nordic has announced that a new Saints Row game is deep in development. Homefront, the Revolution studio, Dambuster, is now working on Dead Island 2, and that it has hired TimeSplitters co-creator Steve Ellis to, quote, plot the future course, end quote, of the TimeSplitters franchise.
Speaking of violent-ass video games, it's super fucking good. I'm actually really excited for Saints Row 5 because I like that franchise. I think it's fun.
I never got into it.
Franchise.
You can,
It's a good franchise.
Yeah, it's a great. You can hit somebody with a dildo bat, and it's fucking funny.
I just remember like whenever, because it came out around, I mean GTA and Saints Row were like kind of like back and forth, and then Saints Row just took like a hard right.
Because they couldn't beat GTA.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
know, but
like
it was
the
just
fir-
I remember it being like Saints Row, like very much like
Yeah, the
1
fir-
and 2, very like
No,
GTA clone-ish.
No. Saints Row 2 was not GTA clone-ish. That's where they
Okay.
start. That's where
Maybe
the
just the
curve
first
started.
one.
Because there's literally a mission in Saints Row 2 where you steal a septic tank and then spray shit in a neighborhood.
I mean,
Well,
I remember it
but
being a
wasn't-
little like off kilter from GTA,
wasn't
but still somewhat in the same vein.
Wasn't Saints Row trying to like kind of market on that same like satirical tone
Oh,
that Grand Theft Auto had?
100%. It's just they went. They at Saints Row 2 they took that turn to way over the top, where Grand Theft Auto stayed super kind of realistic. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but
More so, yeah.
yeah, because in Saints Row 2, you had that whole mission where you steal the septic truck and you're spraying shit all over a neighborhood. Then Saints Row 3 comes along, and the dildo bats
Saints Row the
introduced.
Third,
Saints Row
actually.
the Third, the dildo bats introduced. You have some weird ass shit. Then Saints Row 4 comes around. All of a sudden, you're president of the United States,
And a superhero.
and there's aliens and a superhero. It's like it's super fucking weird.
Yeah, I just remember
And,
like not paying attention to Saints Row, and then probably around like 3 and 4, like seeing it kind of
Sure,
becoming
yeah,
popular
yeah.
again, being like, "What the fuck is
Yeah,
happening?"
I would,
like, what did I miss?
I would personally like to see them go back to the more toned down, because I don't know, we might have talked about Saints Row 4 on this podcast because it's around the same time. I hated losing the cars. Like, you're a superhero, I don't need a car, but car customization's still there, so it's super cool. But why do I need it?
Well, I mean,
can
that's a
just
problem with
fucking bound from building to building.
I mean, that's one of the big problems with the Saints Row franchise in recent years is that it sort of breaks what the game is actually
Yeah,
about.
100%. Yeah.
And it just makes, I think it
Yeah.
makes it less interesting.
Yeah, I would like to see them go back to Saints Row 2, where it's still super satirical and just over the top in certain aspects, but still like I can have a fucking cool car and drive around and shit.
Also, Dead Island 2 is never coming out.
Nope, it is not. Sorry, guys.
Give up on that dream. Also, I don't know if this is a popular or unpopular opinion, but Dead Island is not a good game. So it's not like we're missing anything.
Neither
I'd
is
say that's-
Dying
I'd
Light.
say that's a middle of the road opinion.
Yeah, neither is Dying Light.
Dying Light is a great game. Of
Nope.
course it's
Dying
not a
Light
good game.
was
Nope, was
It
not.
was pretty good.
Nope,
Dead Island wasn't good.
Dead Island was not good. Dying Light is great.
nope.
Yeah, agreed.
not. Everett,
Stamp.
Dying Light. Son of a bitch.
He gives the thumbs
Outvoted.
up. Yes.
Although I am not.
But I'm always right, so it's okay.
Yeah, right. Although I am not. I have yet to be impressed by Dying Light 2. That it seems to break the convention of exactly
Oh,
what I liked about
100%.
the first
Yes,
Dying Light
yeah.
game.
It seems more post-apocalyptic, cool world, like I'm sorry.
every game that comes out
No,
right
no,
now.
no, but it has like this
like-
weird,
No,
like
no, I get it though.
medievalness
Yeah, like
to it
midi-
that I'm
yeah.
just like.
It's just weird.
Yeah,
and
because
it's
everyone
like,
has like weird like stop sign armor and everything.
Yeah, but it's just a
strange.
weird thing. It's like Dying, and you know, to an extent, Dying Light was a good game. Like I just hated the first person parkour
first person
shit.
parkour. Yeah, you talked about.
And I think Dying Light as a world is fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
I really like the idea that you know, in a zombie apocalypse, it took a convention that's been overplayed and just burnt out and turned it into this like, oh, these really cool athletic people ended up learning how to fucking parkour off 20-foot tall buildings. And that's where everybody lives because down on the floor is where that's a really cool, that's a really cool zombie world.
And it was a cool aesthetic because it was like kind of like Caribbean,
Yeah,
African, like
sure.
slum type things,
Sure,
and
but
like everything
now-
was like
but-
tarpy.
But
and
now in
it's like
Dying,
medieval.
now in Dying Light 2, it's less like you're a cool parkour guy trying to like do things and stay away from zombies, and more of like, oh, you're in a resistance and it's normal video games and there's this thing and now you're this, and then like, well, what happened to the zombies? Oh, they're still there, but you're more into like, oh, now
And you wake up,
now
you're in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, now your identity, now you're just getting your identity fucked up. Dying
And
Light.
I also just hate the fact that like Walking Dead has made every zombie thing after it be more about the people than it is about the zombies.
Sure.
It's like
Sometimes I just want to go kill some zombies.
yeah, like if I want a deep story about the personal connections of people, I'll go play fucking Last of Us. Sometimes I just want to be in a world where the zombies are terrifying.
Not just a minor inconvenience.
Yeah,
like-
just not
it's
the
like
thing
State
that's
of-
keeping
yeah,
me
it's
from
like
having
State
to
of-
deal with the next cutscene where I talk to some bullshit guy who thinks he's a king.
Yeah, it's like State of Decay. It's a great zombie game.
Yeah, actually, yes, that's a good example.
Fucking
Yeah.
great zombie game.
It's not like
I'm sure
the
there's a
community
story, but
building
I never
part is
played it.
really cool.
Sure.
But there's not like politics between your town and another town.
100%.
No.
It's good shit, man.
Sometimes they just steal your shit. You
yeah,
gotta go get it.
yeah, that's fine. I got to get
Set
from
them on
point.
fire.
I
Yeah.
got to get from point A to point B. There's zombies in the way, and I have different ways of killing them. We're good. That's all I need in a zombie game.
Open and close your door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until it falls off, and then you turn, and then you fucking roll, and then we all fly out of the car. And Justin's like, I can't see anything because it's dark.
It was dark.
You're so good at video games. You know that.
I am. I'm great.
If you guys like our show, please make sure you subscribe on all your favorite podcasting platforms. To find links to our social media and to the people that help make this show, check out the description to this podcast. We have everything listed with clickable links, so you don't have to furiously write down Twitter handles as I say them fast for the 1,000th time on the podcast. This has been Twin Stick Radio. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.